Welcome back to the sports session. This is the Rider Sports Podcast brought to you by the Rider News. And today we start off with some breaking news. We are recording this on October 31st. And say around an hour ago, Dylan, you reported that the Rider women's basketball team received a positive COVID-19 test and is now in an enforced quarantine. Tell me
Yeah,
about
the
that.
the women's basketball team recorded its first positive coronavirus case. Obviously, hope everybody's okay. It's unclear at this time if the individual is symptomatic or asymptomatic. I assume the team is quarantining in Conover Hall, which is Riders' designated building for quarantine. The team actually was quarantining earlier in the preseason period a few weeks ago after they received an indeterminate test. So it's not their first time on-campus quarantine. However, they were released after 3 or 4 days after the indeterminate test, and the individual recorded 2 subsequent negative tests, which allowed them to be released. However, now this time they have a positive test. It is a confirmed positive test. So they will be back in Conover Hall quarantining for 14 days, and that's going to be a strict 14 days. They're not getting out anytime soon after that. I think the day, and I want to get this right, so I'm looking at my calendar right now, they would be out of quarantine on November 14th. The regular season is going to start on November 25th. So that would be 1 week, and so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days after they exit from their mandatory 14-day quarantine. Not too much time to get ready for a season, if you ask me.
No, I don't think that's remotely enough time, especially since we've already mentioned they were quarantined a little bit earlier, so they lost a day or two of practice there, and now you're losing a whole 2 weeks into your lead up of a season. That is a lot of time to lose, especially in a season as weird as the one we are seeing right now. You're seeing left and right. I mean, like you look at college football, Clemson has their star quarterback down, and that's just one player. And you look there, you see the effect it has. Now imagine a whole team. This is something that's happening across the landscape of sports, and it's just happened to find its way to Lawrenceville. But Dylan, I believe you also said Coach Milligan and the coaching staff is in quarantine as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, they are in quarantine, and they are quarantining in their respective households, I assume. Don't know much more than that exactly, but they are quarantining too. There's not going to be practice for a long period of time. It's unclear at this time if they're going to be able to work out in their quarantine housing or what they're going to be doing. It will be interesting though to look into that and see how they're maintaining shape, because 2 weeks of no practice definitely will hurt you in your preparation for a season. And I guess they're going to just have to find some way to work out in their quarantine stay, and however that may be.
No, that's exactly like it. That's like the big mystery. There's a difference between practice shape and game shape, and you spend months getting into game shape. That's the whole point of like a summer trainings, and then you have your fall, and then again, riders already had a decent amount of these taken away, and now you're already taking a step back. You're already taking a step back from where you are, and now you're not at that point you once were. So now I sit here from an analytical perspective and how Coach Milligan addresses this. I'm sure she'll do it just fine. She's one of the best coaches the MAC has to offer, men's, women's, regardless. She's one of the best there is. So when I sit there, you got to go, okay, maybe it's film study sessions. You have to keep an eye because, again, these are college kids. We're in fragile times, how we've all felt the effects of it, the mental fragility, the kind of up and down states of moods. Now as an athlete with the pressure of games, the pressure of scholarships, now with a quarantine, and now you're working from behind, and sports are just as much mental as it is physical. And along with the physical pressures of being a D1 athlete come along the mental part of it. And now that's something that's really being affected. And that's one thing that you're going to have to look out for, especially in the early parts of this season.
God bless everybody's mental health, man. Really. I commend everybody who is taking a big step to address it, myself included. Throughout all of this, my mental health has certainly not been where I would like it to be, but I'm taking the right steps. And, some days are better than others, but if the good outnumber the bad, then I think you're in a good situation. However, as a student athlete, I cannot even imagine the added pressure that takes on you and the toll that takes on you. And now being, in quarantine, like, yeah, it's got to be incredibly scary for them. I wish them nothing but the best, obviously, and I think that, and I'm hoping that everybody's okay. However, it shows that testing works. These student athletes on the men's and women's basketball teams are tested at once a week now in the preseason period for this exact purpose. During the regular season, they're going to be traveling. They're going to be tested 3 days a week. It's no secret that we're, let me backtrack a little bit and say this. We're not even in the regular season yet. We've seen some hiccups. One person tests positive. This already means a canceled game. During the regular season, this one, test cancels a game, maybe two, if you have two in a week. And that's why the MAC has that third or fourth week in February planned in as that blackout week. I suspect that's going to be filling up pretty fast.
Yeah, no, that really is, especially with, again, we've seen New Jersey's cases rise. I think we just hit over 2,000 for the first time since May. We've just seen those cases rise, and we hope with semesters coming to an end, maybe they start to go down. But nonetheless, it's a real issue that the cases are starting to rise, and now we're already seeing it affect Rider. Now imagine come holiday time when people are traveling everywhere. A lot of the ins and outs of what you're going to have to see we're already seeing a preview of them in Lawrenceville. We're already seeing a preview of them across the country. And it really is a guessing game of if it gets better or worse. But that's where you got to commend the MAC, in my opinion. I mean, the Big Ten, they had to cancel a game between Wisconsin and Nebraska, and they're catching a lot of flack because they didn't have that built-in period where they allowed extra time for makeups like the MAC did. So that's where you have to commend Commissioner Enser, commend the entire MAC, all the athletic directors, and really give them their due credit for building in that extra period to help preserve sports as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we've, you and I have reported on it extensively. Just recently we spoke with athletic director Don Harnum about a meeting he had with, some of the leaders of all the athletic teams at Rider, just imploring that message again and driving it home again, saying, hey, like they need the help of the athletes to enforce the rules, enforce the physical distancing, enforce the mask wearing and everything else, not to be, and not to put themselves in situations that they're going to harm themselves. It's unfortunate to see anybody get this virus. It's unfortunate to see all the cancellations that are happening, that continue to happen, and that most likely will happen in the future. Hopefully this doesn't affect the overall basketball season too much, although it looks like we are heading in that direction. So I hope this is just one isolated incident. I think Rider has done an exceptional job at maintaining the virus. Obviously, it is relentless in its pursuit of anybody, but hopefully we can mitigate this and make this an isolated incident.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we're hoping for. We've already seen 2 instances, and we don't know what we will see in the future. But to bring it on to a more positive note, sticking on women's basketball, Dylan, you had a story come out this week about a new transfer student coming into Rider, a new transfer to the women's basketball team. I mean, she's affectionately called Suf, but Dylan, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Suf is a freshman. She's from the
Netherlands.
Oh, good. She's from the Netherlands. She has a great backstory. She was a part of the youth national team, the Dutch youth national team in the Netherlands. She played on the U16-17 national team. She's a very talented player. She's the tallest player on the women's basketball team, standing at 6'4". And it's very interesting that she told me that she never wanted to play basketball. There was a time where she never even wanted to play. And now she's on a Division I program. She's only been playing basketball for 7 seasons. So something had to have gone right there. She's had so much support and love from her family. They're very, very close with each other. Her mom was so influential in her life before her untimely passing due to ovarian cancer in January 2020. And that really took a toll on her, but she was the most influential person in her life. And it's going to be very, very fun to see Suf on the court playing basketball. I spoke with, Coach Milligan and assistant coach Steve Harney, who actually traveled to the Netherlands to be in their household in September 2019. And, he said they didn't even really talk basketball that much. They were just trying to get to know the family. They were just trying to, laugh, be personable. And that's what Suf really loved about Ryder, and loved about the coaches, that they really did take an interest in her as a person and her family and her mother's story with the situation that was transpiring. And it's very cool to see that bond. And now she's here. Now she feels like she's at home.
That's what I love about the coaches I've talked to at Ryder right there. I mean, whatever, Suf has a talent. We'll get to that in a minute. And she sounds like somebody who could, like, with her height, with her experience, maybe she'll come in and contribute as a freshman on a team that's kind of rebuilding. But the coaches here, like we talked to Baggett, like when I talked to him about recruiting, it's about getting to know you as a person, being a father figure. And then you hear the stories like you just said about the women's basketball coaches where they're just trying to they fly to the Netherlands and it's not you as a basketball player. Well, I don't even know how long that flight is. I wouldn't want to sit on a flight that long. That sounds like too long. But
Yeah.
that's probably like a 12-hour flight. That's a no for me. But they get there, and it's not, hey, let me get to know her, the basketball player. It's let me get to know you, the person. Let me get to know your family. And even during these struggles of everything they were going through, knowing that you have a family at Ryder or you're going to come into a family, I mean, it's hard to find anything comforting, but if there is, that might be something comforting in a time like that.
Absolutely. I mean, January, that's really, I guess, before the onset of this entire pandemic transpired, everything. But, once they were all over here, Suf told me that, she's been hanging out with the 4 freshmen on the team, one in particular, Molly Lynch, that she invited Suf and the other freshmen all over to her house down the shore. And they just had a good time. It's a way to escape Ryder. It's a way to escape all the daunting pressures of being a student athlete. And it's a way to just, see family. And, Suf's very close with her family. And I really heard that and felt that with, in our conversation. And yeah, I'm really eager to see her play. I'm really eager to see, what she's made of, the talent she has. She's 6'4". Obviously, she's going to play the 4, maybe a stretch 4, probably a 5. She's the tallest on the team, only leading Victoria Toomey by like 2 inches. Victoria Toomey standing 6'2", who is a sophomore. I could see the two of them on the court together, maybe have a little twin tower type of vibe, throwing back to Bill Cartwright and Patrick Ewing and, yeah, or Kurt Thomas. Hello.
Yeah,
Kurt Thomas, Patrick Ewing.
Cartwright was on the Bulls, but I know you're going from there.
Cartwright played on the Knicks once. Cartwright played on the Knicks too, right?
I don't remember him, but I can be wrong.
I believe he does. I believe he did.
I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know. I do know he won a few ships with the Bulls, though, so I give him credit for that. He could have. Maybe he was a part of the Oakland deal. Who knows?
I believe he played on the Knicks. He did.
We could fact check that later, but no. But again, kind of kicking back to the story we did before we wrap this up. We talk about Suf. You talk about 4 other freshmen. We've talked in the past about the 5, 6 seniors, I believe it was, graduated off of the MAC winning team, championship winning 6 seniors. Yeah. Those type of role players are going to have a huge impact. Like you have a 6'4" center. You're expecting her to come in and probably be able to rebound, do some stuff offensively. Even if she can stretch out and hit it from the 3, we know Victoria Toomey can. That's going to be somebody who's going to step into a bigger role. How do you think having a 14-day quarantine kind of affects that process of really being able to step into those type of leadership roles and bigger roles that younger players are going to need to step into?
It definitely stunts the adjustments. They were just able to practice as an entire group on October, I believe 16th it was. On October 14th was the NCAA date of like the first allowed practice. That's what started the preseason period. They were tested that day and they didn't practice until the 16th. So, they're already having some lost periods. Then you factor in the indeterminate test that kept them out a couple days. Then you have this, which is going to knock out 2 weeks. On top of, you didn't even have the summer. You weren't even practicing in the summer. And before the October 14th, you were only practicing within like groups of what? 3? 2?
Yeah.
Sometimes 1. Sometimes it was just you for a half hour. So it's it really throws a wrench into their planning. And with the season, they're only going to have 11 days left. And who knows if they're going to prepare? Who knows if they're going to even play on November 25th? That's what Lynn Milligan has indicated to me. That's what some of the players have indicated to me. But who knows if that's even going to hold true now? They haven't even released publicly the non-conference schedule yet. And for this young of a team, I do believe that they're resilient. I know that they're going to be, they're going to get back on the court and train as if, the 2 weeks, they never lost the 2 weeks. They're going to just hit the ground running. That's just the type of team they are. But yeah, this stunts them, whether you like it or not. This stunts them hard. And we might see the effects of it very, very early in the couple non-conference games that they're going to play. Now, some of the teams might be in bigger conferences, the Power 5 one of the Power 5 conferences, like the Big East. And every conference has different rules. In my opinion, I think they could have gotten away with just doing a full 20 game max slate. I think all conferences should have done that. Screw the non-conference play. It's not really going to help you with anything. It's just 4 or 5 throw-in games saying, here, let's play. Just have the conference games. That's a bigger indicator. Everybody says it's the second season anyway. Let's just have one full season of that. You're going to have enough time for the NCAA tournament. You're going to have enough time for the MAC tournament in March. I think you would be personally fine without the non-conference games, especially in a year like this.
I'm going to be honest, I get what you're saying, but I disagree with you just because of how the NCAA is structured. It's not like, it's overall standings. Overall standings within your conference. And now Ryder, if they were to just do non-conference or no non-conference, so let's just say you started conference play November 25th, now they're starting behind in conference play. Now you have more time to regain yourself. You get to get a feel for your team because what you know about your team game 1 to game 5 is drastically different. So I think especially in basketball, like every other sport, non-conference play is crucial, especially when you're in the MAC. Like you get to go up against these bigger teams and really see, okay, come tournament time, who can match up with the best of the best? Who are going to be my mismatches? Like we can't sit here and be like, okay, last year, Ryder women's basketball, they didn't see Stella Johnson put up 28 and leading us over Penn State and be like, okay, come the MAC tournament, that girl is going to be leading us. Like, yeah, we already knew it, but it was a precursor to what we eventually saw in MAC play. So I get what you're saying, especially in a year like this. Yes, but if you keep your teams local to like where you're playing, NJIT's, Fairleigh Dickinson's, Penn State's, teams that aren't really too far to where you can hopefully mitigate exposure, there is a lot of value in non-conference because, again, non-conference is the effect of preseason. And we've already seen what the NFL has had without preseason, more injuries, sloppier play. You need the non-conference to get ready for the basketball that actually matters. And then again, teams are sloppier game 1 to game 5. So like Ryder, who's rebuilding, again, some of these recruits look pretty talented, like a Suf. Or I forget how to pronounce her full last name, but some of these recruits look really talented, but they're going to need some time to get acclimated. The team you're going to get game 1 is not the team you're going to get game 5. Certainly not the team you're going to get game 20 as you enter into the MAC tournament. So you need those extra 3, 4, 5 games, whether they're throwing games that have no value. It's the effect of preseason because in the end, it gets you to that point. It's a stepping stone to the point that you need to get to be that team that raises the MAC championship trophy or whatever conference you are in.
Right. However many games they play will be an indicator of how their loss of time has affected them.
Yes.
And I do anticipate there being more injuries for that exact reason. Like you said, we've already seen it in the NFL. We've seen it in college football. Numerous teams are having injury lists longer than CVS receipts. And you and I both know those are pretty damn long. You can make a freaking scarf out of them. But
I don't know. You're buying from CVS, but I guess.
bro, you can the receipts from CVS are a mile long.
Are
Just
they really?
that's standard, bro. That is
Hey, man, I
standard.
don't pay attention to my CVS receipts like you do.
You can't miss it if it's just coming out of the machine
That's a
and
good
just
point.
not
That's on me.
stopping.
That's on me. That's a
But
good point. That's on me.
but yeah, like I would not be surprised if, a lot of teams in the MAC, see some unfortunate injuries, or teams in general just see some unfortunate injuries due to the lack of, practice, lack of play, and lack of strength and conditioning. Like the 2 weeks they're looking, yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's definitely gonna hurt them.
No, that is, and that should do it for today's episode of the sports section. Tune back in for 2 weeks when we have another one, and that one will be right on the precipice of basketball season. So be prepared for some pretty great and in-depth content. Once again, I'm Shaun Chornobroff here with Dylan Manfre, and you tuned in for another episode of the sports section.